The giant spaceship appeared in the sky without warning. One day the world was normal, and the next day it wasn't. People looked up and saw something that did not belong there, a massive dark shape that blocked the stars. Joo Kim stood in her backyard in Montana, staring up at the night sky. The cool air made her pull her jacket tighter around her shoulders. She held a special telescope in her hands, one she had built herself. As one of Earth's top space scientists, she knew this day might come. She just didn't think it would come so soon. "They're really here," she said softly. Behind her, the back door opened. Her husband Do-Hyun Park stepped outside. He moved quietly, a habit from his years as a sniper in the U.S. Army. His face showed no fear, only calm focus. "How many ships?" he asked, standing next to her. "Just the big one for now. But I bet there are more we can't see yet." Joo adjusted her telescope. "They're sending messages to every major government. They call themselves the Galactic Hegemony." Do-Hyun nodded. His hand rested on Joo's shoulder. He had fought in wars across Earth. He had seen the worst people could do to each other. But aliens? This was new. 3 days later, the world changed again. The aliens wanted to meet with Earth's leaders. They came down in smaller ships that landed in major cities. They looked almost human, but taller, with skin that shimmered like metal in the light. Joo was called to Washington, D.C. The government needed their best scientists. Do-Hyun went with her, watching from a distance as she entered meetings with the visitors. "They have been to thousands of worlds," Joo told him that night in their hotel room. Her eyes were bright with excitement, despite her worry. "They have technology we can't even dream of yet. Ships that can jump between stars in days instead of years." Do-Hyun sat cleaning his hunting rifle, another old habit. "And what do they want from us?" Joo's smile faded. "They say Earth must join them, become part of their empire. A protectorate, they call it. And if we say no?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. A week passed. World leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to give in. The aliens waited, their huge ship still hanging in the sky like a silent threat. Joo was asked to join a team of scientists who would work with the aliens, learn from them. She said yes. That night, she and Do-Hyun had their first real fight in years. "They're not here to help us," Do-Hyun said. His voice was low, but Joo could hear the anger in it. "No one crosses the stars just to make friends. We need to understand them," Joo argued. "If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. There must be a way we can work with them, learn from them." Do-Hyun looked at her for a long time. Then he went to the closet and pulled out a metal box. He opened it to show what was inside: his military tags, medals, and a photo of his old team. Men who had trusted each other with their lives. "I've seen this before," he said quietly. "Not aliens, but people who come with big ships and big promises. It never ends well for the ones who welcome them." Joo put her hand on his arm. "This is different." "No," he said. "It's not." The next day, Earth's answer came. The United Nations voted to reject the hegemony's offer. They would not become a protectorate. That night, smaller ships began to descend by the hundreds. The occupation of Earth had begun. From their window, Joo and Do-Hyun watched flights streak across the sky. She reached for his hand in the darkness. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Do-Hyun's eyes followed the ships. His face was hard in the strange light. "We survive. Then we fight." 3 months after the ships came down, Earth was a different place. The aliens had taken over every major city. Their tall metal buildings now stood next to human ones. Their soldiers walked the streets with weapons that could burn through walls. Joo and Do-Hyun had left Washington, D.C. and gone back to their home in Montana. The small town where they lived hadn't seen many aliens yet. It was too small, too far from anything important, but everyone knew they would come eventually. One morning, Joo turned on the TV to see a new face. The alien called himself Governor Karen. He had blue-gray skin that looked like it was made of tiny scales. His eyes were large and yellow with no white parts. "People of Earth," he said in perfect English, "your world is now under the protection of the galactic hegemony. Those who accept our rule will be safe. Those who fight will be punished." Do-hyun walked into the room and watched silently. His face showed nothing, but his hands were tight fists at his sides. "They've appointed a governor," Ju said. "That means they're here to stay." Do-hyun nodded. "For now." Later that day, Ju got a message on her computer. The aliens wanted all top scientists to work with them. She was to report to the new research center they had built in what used to be Denver. "I have to go," she told Do-hyun that night. "If I don't, they'll come looking for me." "It could be dangerous," he said. "We don't know what they really want." Ju touched his face gently. "I'll be careful, and I'll learn what I can about them. Knowledge is power, right?" Do-hyun didn't smile. "Just come back to me." The next week, Ju went to Denver. The city had changed. Alien ships flew between buildings. Strange plants grew in the parks. Humans walked with their heads down, trying not to be noticed. The research center was a tall silver tower. Inside, Ju met other scientists from around the world. They were all nervous, but also curious. The aliens had technology that seemed like magic. "We will show you how to improve your world," said the alien scientist in charge. His name was Lecter. He was smaller than the soldiers, with 6 fingers on each hand. "The hegemony brings progress to all its worlds." Ju worked hard. She learned about the aliens' star maps, their engines, their computers. Every night, she made secret notes about what she saw, things that might be useful someday. Back in Montana, Do-hyun was busy too. He hiked into the mountains every day, carrying his rifle. He set up targets at different distances. He practiced shooting in wind, in rain, at dawn, at dusk. He kept his skills sharp. Sometimes he met with friends from his army days. They talked in low voices over beers. They shared stories about the aliens, about humans who had been taken away for speaking against them, about the resistance groups that were starting to form. 1 month turned into 2. Ju came home only on weekends. She looked tired but determined. "They're not as strong as they want us to think," she told Do-hyun one night. "I've been talking to scientists from other research centers. The hegemony is spread thin across many worlds, and not all alien species in the Empire are happy." Do-hyun listened carefully. Any weak spots in their armor? Ju smiled a little. "I'm working on that." The next day, they heard the news. Governor Karen had announced new rules. All humans had to register with the hegemony. Anyone with military training would be closely watched. Former soldiers would be taken to education centers. Do-hyun watched the announcement with cold eyes. Then he went to the backyard and buried his military tags and medals under the old oak tree. That night, as they lay in bed, Ju whispered, "What are we going to do?" Do-hyun stared at the ceiling. "We're going to play their game. For now. But they don't know humans very well if they think we'll live like this forever." Miles away in Denver, the windows of 3 hegemony buildings suddenly shattered. The first act of resistance had begun. 6 months into the occupation, winter came to Montana. Snow covered the ground around Do-hyun and Ju's house. The cold kept many alien patrols away. Humans had learned that most hegemony species didn't like Earth's cold weather. Ju now worked at the Denver Research Center 5 days a week. She had gained the trust of Lecter, the alien scientist. He showed her more of their technology than he showed the others. "Your mind works differently than most humans," Lecter told her one day. "You see patterns that others miss." Ju smiled politely. "I just want to learn." What she didn't say was that she was part of a growing network. Scientists from research centers across the world were sharing information in secret. They used codes hidden in normal reports. They learned about the aliens' weaknesses, their plans, their true numbers. Back in Montana, Do-hyun had his own secret. His friend Miguel, who had served with him in the army, came to visit one snowy evening. "It's happening," Miguel said quietly as they sat by the fire. "Small groups at first, ex-military mostly, but others too. We're calling it the Earth Defense Network." Do-hyun nodded. "What are they doing?" "Nothing big yet. Cutting power to alien buildings, stealing supplies, learning their patrol routes." Miguel leaned forward. "We need people like you, Do-hyun. People who know how to fight smart." Do-hyun stared at the fire for a long time. "I have to think about Jiwoo. If they find out I'm involved." "I understand," Miguel said, "but they're taking more people every day. The education centers are really prison camps. Sooner or later, they'll come for all of us who served." After Miguel left, Do-hyun went to the shed behind his house. Under a loose floorboard was a box. Inside was his sniper rifle, cleaned and ready. Next to it were bullets he had been working on. Special bullets with tiny pieces of alien metal he had collected and melted down. The next weekend, Jiwoo came home with news. "They're building something big," she whispered, even though they were alone in their house. "A machine that can detect human brain patterns from a distance. They want to find people who are planning to resist." Do-hyun's face darkened. "How soon?" 3 months, maybe 4. "But Do-hyun," she took his hands in hers. "I've been working with others. We found a way to block the signal. It's not perfect yet, but we're close." Do-hyun looked at his wife with new eyes. She had always been smart, but now she was something else too, a fighter in her own way. "I've made a decision," he said. "There are people organizing resistance. I'm going to help them." Jiwoo didn't look surprised. "I know. I've always known you would." She squeezed his hands. "Just be careful. The aliens don't understand humans yet, but they're learning." 2 weeks later, Do-hyun met with a small group in an old hunting cabin. There was Miguel, a woman named Haejin who had been in Korean Special Forces, a young computer expert named Tayo, and several others. They all had different skills, different backgrounds, but they all wanted the same thing: freedom. "We need to start hitting them where it hurts," Haejin said. "Their communication systems. Without those, the different alien bases can't coordinate. It's risky," Tayo warned. "They have sensors everywhere." Do-hyun spoke up. "My wife is working on something that might help with that, a way to block their detectors." The others looked at him with new interest. "Is she the scientist?" "Joo Kim," Haejin asked. "We've heard about her. She's helping more than she knows." That night, as the group made plans, a hegemony patrol ship flew overhead. Everyone froze, but the ship passed by. "They still think they're in control," Do-hyun said as the sound faded. "That's their weakness." For the first time, he felt a spark of hope. The aliens were strong, but they had never faced humans before. They didn't know what was coming. None of them did. The plan was simple but dangerous. The resistance would attack the main communication tower in Denver. Without it, the alien ships couldn't talk to each other or to their homeworld. Do-hyun, Haejin, and 3 others would do it at night, when fewer guards were around. What they didn't know was that Governor Karen had gotten better at hunting humans. He had special cameras that could see in the dark. He had put them all around important buildings. On the night of the attack, Jiwoo was working late at the research center. She had no idea what her husband was about to do. Tayo had found a way to turn off some alien alarms, and the small team moved quietly toward the tall metal tower behind the alien headquarters. Do-hyun carried his rifle with the special bullets. Haejin had bombs made from stolen alien technology. The others had guns and knives. They wore dark clothes and had painted their faces black to hide in the shadows. "Remember," Do-hyun whispered, "we hit the power source first, then the main supports. No shooting unless we have to." They got past the first set of guards easily. Tayo's device made the alien sensors show nothing but empty space. They placed the bombs carefully around the base of the tower. Everything was going as planned. Then a ship appeared overhead, shining a bright light down on them. Alarms began to sound. "Run," Haijin shouted. "Split up. Meet at the safe house." Do-Yun fired his rifle at the ship's light, breaking it. Then he ran into the darkness. Behind him, he heard the bombs go off. The tower creaked and began to fall. They had done it, but at what cost? Back at the research center, Jiwoo heard the explosion. The alien scientists ran to the windows. Lecter's yellow eyes went wide. "The communication tower," he said. "Terrorists have attacked it." Soldiers rushed into the room. One of them pointed at Jiwoo. "She has access to the building plans," he said in the alien strange language, which Jiwoo had learned to understand. "And she left work early 3 times last week." Lecter looked at Jiwoo with surprise and then sadness. "Is this true?" Jiwoo's heart beat fast, but she kept her face calm. "I was sick. Check the medical logs." But it was too late. The soldiers grabbed her arms. One of them searched her bag and found her notebook, the one where she had written down information about alien technology. They couldn't read her code, but they knew it wasn't normal notes. "Jiwoo Kim, you are under arrest for spying and helping terrorists," the head soldier said. "You will come with us for questioning." Jiwoo didn't fight. She knew it would only make things worse. As they let her out, she saw other human scientists watching with fear in their eyes. She held her head high and didn't say a word. Across the city, Do-Yun made it to the safe house. Haijin was there, with burns on her arm. Taho arrived an hour later. The others never came. "We did it," Haijin said. "The tower is down. Their ships can't talk to each other now." Do-Yun nodded, but he was worried. Jiwoo hadn't answered his secret phone calls. Something felt wrong. At dawn, they turned on an old TV to see the news. Governor Karen's face filled the screen. He looked angry. "Last night, human terrorists attacked a hegemony facility," he said. "This will not be tolerated. We have arrested the leader of this attack, a scientist named Jiwoo Kim, who used her position to help the terrorists." The screen showed Jiwoo being led into a prison ship, her hands tied, her face bruised. Do-Yun felt like the world had stopped. He couldn't breathe. His hands began to shake. "Jiwoo," he whispered. Then his eyes turned cold, colder than the Montana winter. "They don't know who I am. They don't know what I can do." Haijin and Taho looked at each other with worry. They had seen men with eyes like that before. "What are you going to do?" Taho asked quietly. Do-Yun picked up his rifle. "I'm going to get my wife back, and I'm going to make them regret the day they came to Earth." Do-Yun did not sleep that night, or the night after. He sat in the safe house, cleaning his rifle over and over. His mind was clear and cold, like it used to be when he was on a mission. Back when he was the best sniper in his unit, the man they sent when no one else could make the shot. "We need a plan," Haijin said on the 3rd day. "We can't just attack the prison. They've doubled the guards since the tower fell." Do-Yun looked up from his rifle. "I don't need to attack the prison. I just need one shot." Taho frowned. "What do you mean?" "Governor Karen. He's the one who ordered Jiwoo's arrest. If we take him, we can trade him for her." Haijin shook her head. "He never goes outside, and his building has shields." "Every shield has a weak point," Do-Yun said. "And Jiwoo's notebook had information about their technology. Did any of your people get copies?" Taho nodded slowly. "Some. We have the basic shield patterns. But Do-Yun, even if you find a way through, it would be suicide. Not if we're smart." Do-Yun stood up. "I need the alien metal from the crashed ship near the mountains, as much as you can get. And I need to know Karen's schedule. When he eats, when he sleeps, when he looks out the window." For the next week, they gathered information and supplies. Resistance members from across the city helped. Some worked in the alien buildings as cleaners. Some fixed their machines. They all had eyes and ears. Do-hyun worked day and night on his bullets. He mixed the alien metal with Earth metals in different ways, testing each one against a piece of shield material they had stolen. Finally, he found a mix that could pass through the shield, but just barely. "It will slow the bullet down," he told Hyjin. "I'll need to be closer than I want, and I'll only get one shot." "Then make it count," she said. The plan came together. Governor Karen had a meeting every morning in his office on the top floor. The room had a large window facing the mountains. He thought he was safe because of the height and the shields. No human weapon could reach him there. But he didn't know about Do-hyun. On the morning of the attack, Do-hyun hiked up to a ridge 3 miles from the alien headquarters. It was a long shot, one of the longest he had ever tried. But the air was clear, and there was almost no wind. He set up his position carefully, just like he had been taught years ago. The rifle rested on a special stand he had made. He checked the wind once more, then loaded one of his special bullets. Through his scope, he could see the alien building clearly. The window was visible, but he couldn't see inside yet. He would have to wait until the shield changed color slightly when someone stood near it. Ju had explained that the shields reacted to body heat. Minutes passed, then hours. Do-hyun didn't move. His body was still, his breathing slow and steady. This was what he had been trained to do. Wait as long as it took for the perfect moment. Finally, the shield changed color. Someone was standing at the window. Do-hyun took a slow breath in, then out halfway. He held it. His finger squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked against his shoulder. The bullet flew through the air, traveling 3 miles in seconds. It hit the shield, slowed down but didn't stop, and then crashed through the window beyond. Through his scope, Do-hyun saw the shield flash red and then fail completely. Alarms began to sound in the distance. Ships rose into the air from around the building. "Did you hit him?" Hyjin's voice came through his radio. Do-hyun packed up his rifle quickly. "I don't know, but I just announced that the hunt has begun." As he moved down the ridge toward their hidden car, he heard the alien ships searching for him. But they were looking in the wrong place. By the time they found his shooting position, he would be long gone, and he would be getting ready for his next shot. The hunter had awakened, and the galactic hegemony was about to learn why humans, especially American snipers, were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. "Who did this?" Governor Karen shouted. He was not dead, but the bullet had broken the window and hit the wall just inches from his head. No one had ever gotten that close to killing him before. His guards rushed around, checking systems and calling in ships to search the mountains. Karen touched the wall where the bullet had hit. It had gone through his shield as if it wasn't there. "That should be impossible. Find the shooter," he ordered, "and bring me more information about this human resistance." Across the city, in an old basement that had once been a storage room, Do-hyun met with other resistance members. His shot had not killed Karen, but it had sent a message. The aliens were not safe anymore. "They're moving Ju," Taho said, looking at his computer. He had hacked into the alien system. "They're taking her to their space station. They think she'll be safer there." Do-hyun's face showed no emotion, but his eyes were hard. "When?" "Tomorrow morning. 6 ships will fly from the prison to the station." Hyjin looked at Do-hyun. "You can't shoot down a ship." "No," Do-hyun agreed, "but I can make them change their plans." That night, 3 important alien buildings lost power. Their backup systems also failed. No one saw who did it. Security cameras showed nothing. The aliens called in more soldiers to guard the prison and the ships. The next morning, as the sun rose, the aliens prepared to move Ju. 6 ships waited outside the prison, engines humming. Guards with big guns stood everywhere. They were ready for an attack. But no attack came. Instead, a single shot from somewhere far away hit the engine of the lid ship. The ship didn't explode, but smoke poured from it. It couldn't fly. Another shot. Another ship damage. The aliens fired their weapons in all directions, but they couldn't see their enemy. They didn't understand how a human weapon could do this much damage from so far away. "It's some new technology," one alien officer said. "The humans must have built something we don't know about." They were wrong. It was just one man with a very special skill. Do-hyun had moved to a new position on top of a tall building, 2 miles away. Through his scope, he watched the aliens panic. He smiled for the first time since Ju-woo's arrest. "Delay the transfer," he heard an alien say through the radio he had taken from a dead soldier. "We need more security." Ju-woo would stay on Earth, at least for now. That gave Do-hyun more time. Over the next week, strange things kept happening to the aliens. Important officers were shot as they walked to their ships. Equipment broke for no reason. Food supplies went missing. The aliens began to whisper about a ghost that they couldn't see or catch. "The human rebels have a new weapon," Governor Karen said in a message to his home world. "They can hit us from distances our sensors can't detect. We need more ships, more soldiers." But the truth was simpler and more frightening. One human with the right skills was causing all this trouble, and he was just getting started. In the prison, Ju-woo heard the guards talking about the ghost. They were afraid to go outside now. Some wanted to leave Earth completely. "Stupid humans," one guard said. "Don't they know we can destroy their whole world if we want to?" Ju-woo kept her head down, but inside she was smiling. She knew who the ghost was, and she knew the aliens had made a terrible mistake when they took her. They had awakened something they couldn't understand. Human love, human anger, the will to fight that had kept humans alive through thousands of years of war and hardship. And they had no idea what was coming next. Late that night, as the aliens slept in their beds, a single bullet hit the power station that ran the prison's force fields. Alarms sounded. Backup systems tried to start but failed. For 10 seconds, the prison cells were open. It wasn't enough time for anyone to escape, but it was enough time for the message to spread among the human prisoners. "Be ready. Help is coming." 2 weeks had passed since Do-hyun began his one-man war against the hegemony. His face was all over the city now, on wanted signs and screens. The aliens offered big rewards to anyone who helped catch him. But no one did. Instead, more people joined the fight. Do-hyun was cleaning his rifle in a small apartment when someone knocked on the door. He grabbed his gun and moved to the side of the door. "Who is it?" he asked quietly. "Friends," came the reply. "Miguel sent us." Do-hyun opened the door a crack. Outside stood a woman with short black hair and a tall man with a scar on his face. They both wore normal clothes, but Do-hyun could tell they were soldiers by how they stood. "I'm Commander Haejin Ryu," the woman said. "This is Sergeant Jiho Kang. We led the Korean Special Forces team in Seoul before the aliens came. Now we lead a resistance cell." Do-hyun let them in but kept his gun ready. "What do you want?" "To work together," Haejin said. "What you're doing, it's working. The aliens are scared, but you're just one man. Imagine what we could do if we all attacked at once." Do-hyun thought about it. He had been focused only on getting Ju-woo back, but these people were fighting for something bigger, for all of Earth. "I work alone," he said. "You did," Haejin agreed. "And you've done amazing things, but they're going to move your wife to the space station soon. Our sources confirm it. You can't stop a space launch on your own." Do-hyun knew she was right. He needed help. "What's your plan?" he asked. Haejin smiled. "We have people in 12 cities around the world. We've been waiting for the right moment to strike. Your actions have given people hope. They're ready to fight now." She showed him a map with red dots marking resistance cells across the globe. "If we all attack on the same day, the aliens won't be able to stop us all. They'll have to call ships from other cities to help. That will leave the prison here with fewer guards." It was a good plan, but something was missing. "We need someone on the inside," Do-hyun said. "Someone who knows the prison layout, the guard schedule." "We might have someone," Joe spoke for the first time. An alien named Tahoe Quan. He's a lieutenant in their security force. But he's from a world that was taken over by the hegemony a long time ago. His people still remember what it's like to lose their freedom. Do-hyun was surprised. An alien helping humans. Not all of them like what the hegemony is doing, Hyjin explained. Tahoe has been giving us information for months. He says many worlds in the Empire are close to rebellion. They're just waiting for someone to go first. The next day, Do-hyun met Tahoe Quan in an old church. The alien looked almost human, but his skin had a purple tone, and his eyes were larger. He wore a hooded coat to hide his face. "Why are you helping us?" Do-hyun asked. "My grandfather told me stories," Tahoe said in perfect English, "about how my world used to be free. The hegemony took that from us. They take it from everyone they touch." He looked at Do-hyun with his strange eyes. "The way you fight, one man against an empire. My people have stories about warriors like you. I want to help write a new story." Tahoe gave them what they needed: maps of the prison, guard schedules, and the biggest help of all, the codes to disable the prison's alarm system. "They're moving your wife in 3 days," Tahoe told Do-hyun, "to the main station in orbit. Once she's there, even I can't help you reach her." Do-hyun, Hyjin, and Jiho spent the next day making plans with resistance leaders from around the world. They would all attack at the same time, creating chaos everywhere. As Do-hyun looked at the faces of these brave people, humans from different countries, even an alien who had chosen to help, he felt something he hadn't felt since Ju was taken: hope. 3 days, he said. Then we show the hegemony that taking my wife was the biggest mistake they ever made. The day of the attack came. All around the world, at exactly the same time, resistance fighters began to hit alien targets. Power stations went dark. Ships on the ground exploded. Communication systems failed. The hegemony was under attack everywhere at once. In Denver, Do-hyun, Hyjin, and Jiho moved toward the prison in a stolen alien shuttle. Tahoe had taught them how to fly it. He had also given them alien uniforms to wear. "Remember," Hyjin said as they flew, "we have 20 minutes before they realize this shuttle was stolen. Once we land, we need to move fast." Do-hyun nodded. His rifle was hidden inside a long case. He had 15 of his special bullets. He hoped it would be enough. The shuttle landed on the prison roof. No alarms went off. Tahoe's codes had worked. They climbed out and entered the building through a service door. Inside, the prison was cold and quiet. Most of the guards had been sent to deal with the attacks in the city. Only a few remained, and they didn't look twice at 3 people in alien uniforms. They reached a control room where a single guard sat watching screens. Jiho moved behind him quietly and knocked him out with a quick hit to the head. Hyjin sat at the controls. "I need to find where they're keeping Ju and disable the force fields. It will take a few minutes." "We don't have a few minutes," Do-hyun said, looking at the screens. On one of them, he could see alien officers rushing toward the control room. "They know something's wrong." "Then we need a new plan," Jiho said. Do-hyun thought quickly. "The power core. If I can hit it from here, it will create a system reset. All doors will open for a few seconds." "That's crazy," Hyjin said. "The power core is 5 levels down and behind multiple walls. You can't shoot through all that." "I can," Do-hyun said, opening his rifle case. "I just need to see where to aim." On one of the screens, he could see the power core, a glowing blue ball of energy behind glass walls. He could also see Ju. She was in a cell nearby, sitting on a small bed. She looked thin and tired, but her eyes were still bright and alert. Do-hyun's heart jumped at the sight of her, but he forced himself to stay calm. He needed perfect focus now. He opened a small hole in the wall using a tool Tahoe had given him. It made no sound. Through this hole, he could see down into the center of the prison where the power core sat. "How will you know where Ju's cell is from here?" Joe asked. "5th level, Third section, Cell 12. Do-Yun said without looking away from his rifle scope. I counted the doors on the screen. He loaded one of his special bullets, the last one he had made with the strongest alien metal. This bullet could go through almost anything. When the power goes out, the emergency lights will come on, he told Haijin and Jiho. You have maybe 10 seconds to get to the 5th level. I'll meet you at Juwoo's cell. And how will you get there? Haijin asked. Do-Yun smiled slightly. I'll find a way. He took a deep breath, aimed his rifle, and fired. The bullet flew through 5 levels, passing through walls and floors. It hit the power core dead center. The blue light flickered and then went out. The whole prison went dark. Emergency red lights came on. Go! Do-Yun shouted. Haijin and Jiho ran out. Do-Yun grabbed his rifle and followed, but he took a different turn. He knew a faster way down. As he ran, he could hear aliens shouting orders. The prison was in chaos. No one knew what had happened to the power core. Do-Yun reached the 5th level and saw Haijin and Jiho running toward Cell 12. The door was open. Inside, Juwoo was standing, looking confused but ready. When she saw Do-Yun, her eyes went wide. You came, she whispered. I promised I'd always come back for you, he said, taking her hand. An alarm began to sound. The emergency power was starting to come back on. We need to move, Jiho said. The shuttle leaves in 5 minutes, with or without us. As they ran toward the stairs, alien guards appeared at both ends of the hall. They were trapped. Do-Yun looked at Juwoo. After weeks apart, he might lose her again. But she smiled at him, and he saw something in her eyes, the same fire that burned in his own heart. Trust me, she said. Then she pointed to a small panel on the wall. That's a waste disposal chute. It leads outside. Sometimes the impossible shot wasn't the one you took with a rifle. Sometimes it was the one you took with your heart. The waste chute. Are you sure? Haijin asked as alien guards closed in from both ends of the hallway. I studied the prison plans while I was here, Juwoo said. It goes down to a collection area outside the walls. Do-Yun didn't wait. He fired his rifle at the panel, breaking it open. The chute was narrow, but big enough for a person to fit through. Ladies first, he said with a small smile. Juwoo went in headfirst and slid down into the darkness. Haijin followed, then Jiho. Do-Yun fired 3 more shots at the guards to slow them down, then jumped into the chute just as they reached him. The slide down was fast and smelly. They fell through pipes and tunnels until they landed in a large bin full of garbage outside the prison walls. Everyone okay? Do-Yun asked as they climbed out. Juwoo nodded. She was dirty and smelled bad, but she was alive, and she was free. The shuttle is gone, Jiho said, checking his watch. We missed it. Then we walk, Do-Yun said. The safe house is 5 miles from here. As they started to move away from the prison, Juwoo grabbed Do-Yun's arm. Wait. There's something you need to know, something I learned while I was in there. Tell us as we walk, Haijin said, looking nervously at the prison where alarms were still sounding. They moved quickly through back alleys and empty buildings. Alien ships flew overhead, searching for them. Juwoo talked as they walked. The hegemony is not as strong as they want us to think, she said. They have thousands of worlds, yes, but many are ready to rebel. And their ships are spread thin across the galaxy. How do you know this? Jiho asked. I listened to the guards, and I read things on their computers when they let me work. Governor Karen was sent here because Earth was seen as a special case. They're afraid of us. Afraid. Of humans. Haijin sounded surprised. Yes. They've studied our history, all our wars, our weapons, how quickly we learn and adapt. They've never seen a species like us before. Do-Yun thought about this as they walked. It made sense. Humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They knew war in a way these aliens didn't. They'd reached the safe house just as the sun was setting. Inside, they found Tejo waiting with food and medicine. "You made it," the alien said, looking relieved. "I was worried when you missed the shuttle." "We took a different way out," Do-Yun said, cleaning his rifle while Ju ate her first good meal in weeks. Tahoe turned on a small screen. "You should see this. It's happening all over the world." The screen showed images from cities around Earth. Alien ships were on fire. Human prisoners were running free. In some places, aliens were even leaving their posts and returning to their ships. "It worked," Hyjin said in wonder. "Everyone attacked at once, just like we planned." "And there's more," Tahoe said. "Look." The screen changed to show the night sky. The alien space station could be seen as a small bright dot. As they watched, a flash of light appeared, then another. The station was under attack. "Who's attacking the station?" Joe asked. "Other aliens," Tahoe explained, "from worlds that want freedom. They'd been waiting for a sign that the hegemony could be beaten." Ju took Do-Yun's hand. "You did this. You showed them it was possible to fight back." Do-Yun shook his head. "We all did this, together." As night fell over Earth, the news got better. Governor Karen had fled the planet. Many alien soldiers were surrendering. Some were even joining the humans against the hegemony. "What happens now?" Ju asked as she and Do-Yun sat together, watching the stars. "Now we rebuild," he said, "and we get ready." "Ready for what?" Do-Yun smiled at his wife. "To take the fight to them, to free all those other worlds, to show the galaxy that they should never have messed with Earth." Ju-Mu leaned her head on his shoulder. "And to think, all of this started because they arrested one woman." "Not just any woman," Do-Yun said softly. "My woman." Above them, another alien ship exploded in the night sky. Earth's freedom had begun. And somewhere in the stars, the galactic hegemony was learning a hard lesson. Never underestimate humans. Especially not the wife of an American sniper. The end.